Agreement on anything?
Judge, I have just been reviewing Mr. Sharp's proposed redactions, and there are some that I agree to.
Okay.
Not a whole lot, but we've already given the court the first one. Does the court have a copy of his redaction? I can give the court.
Yeah, the proposed redaction, yes.
Yes. Okay, so looking at Mr. Sharp's chart, number one we've already discussed. Number 17 is the next one.
All right. And that's agreed to?
Yes, I don't have any problem with that. That's the discussion of the search of defendant Williams' home, revealing a gun, and the gun and the contents of that search were suppressed, so that should not come in.
All right.
As well as number 19, which is on page 73 of the transcript.
All right.
That is, just to call it out, speculation.
Okay.
Specifically, it's 67, line 15 through 19. No, I'm sorry. Mr. Sharp has a description that is different than the lines that are listed. So so on page 73, I don't have any objection to lines 10. He has it right. Lines 10 through 13. No objection.
Ms. Lowe, could you just give me the number of the section you had no objection to?
17.
Okay.
So 17 and 19, I also don't have any objection to. 23, I don't have any objection to.
Okay.
Could you clarify what the first one you did not have an objection to is?
The first one that I did not have an objection to was number 1. And number 1, if you already have the redactions? Okay, so it was Mr. Zachary, after saying he wasn't at Club Crucial, he talks about what happened at Club Crucial. And Your Honor, I will say that as it stands, I'm not trying to get that in. I don't know if something else changes, but right now I agree that it should come out.
Okay. All right. So we had gone through 23.
24, 25, 26, I don't agree with. Going to 27, it is 9211. Keep out all the way through 9422. (9211) through 9422. That's what I've gotten to agree to. If the court permits me to further review the rest of them, because some of them I was looking and I don't agree to, I'm ready to argue those, or I can.
Let's do that right now, and then over the lunch break you can go through the ones you hadn't hit yet and see whether there's agreement on any of those.
Just Did the state agree to 27 or no?
It's
No, we
no.
stopped.
Sounds like so far just 1, 17, 19, and 23. Okay. All right. So I guess that means 2 through 16 we need to take up.
Yes.
Okay.
And Your Honor, will we just follow the same pattern we did last time where the defense tells what their objection is?
Yeah. So, I mean, the objections are essentially on the proposed redaction. So I guess the objections generally speculation about why they shot up the house.
So, page 13, line 16.
I'm the chief crunch and flavor officer. For generations, Utz has been turning the family on.
Is talking with the witness about the house getting shot up, and this is following. I think you have to go back a little bit further to page 12 to get better context. In that conversation, the witness is talking with Demekion Garlington about people that call him that night, starting on page 12, line 14. And Quindarius Zachary is talking about his girlfriend telling him what's going on.
Right. Yeah, so it starts at 13, line 16. He doesn't have objection to him saying, hey, this house got shot up. It's why the house got shut up, which the objection's speculation.
So my argument, assuming I established the proper foundation, is that with Quindarius Zachary saying that Trevante was helping D-Fight. He's talking about Demekion Garlington.
Right. So what would his basis of knowledge be? You would need to establish that he's got a legitimate basis to know that.
That's the point that I'm making. Like, without doing it, I wouldn't,
Okay.
if I were not able to do it, I wouldn't proffer it or even try to play it.
And so you think you can?
Yes, that's the point. Especially, Your Honor, when we're talking about, he goes all the way through to line 2.
Right. 14, line 2.
Okay, I was looking at line 14.
And
Unless if I don't establish that foundation, I won't tender that. But if I do, I just want to be able to play that part about his.
okay. So how about this? Right now it's out on granted as to speculation.
Okay.
And if you establish it,
Okay.
then that'll be a different story.
That'll work. Okay. 14. Okay. So the next one being page 25. So 25, page 25, line 9 through 25:12 is a direct statement from the witness about an incident that's listed as an overt act on the indictment.
Okay.
And what they were doing, it's an admission.
All right.
It's an admission against his.
All right. So what's our objection there, Mr. Short?
Well,
My objection is drug use, and the character that's associated with that, and the statement they didn't, where is it? They really didn't care. That's speculation about someone else's mind state, or state of mind. The reality is, within this context is a story about that Mr. Zachary gives, that he describes my client, as well as others, shooting up houses. And I'm not, of course I don't want that to be admitted, but that's a fight for another day. But I'm not objecting to that on any of these bases, but I am objecting. So I'm not objecting to him talking about that at this time, but I am objecting to him pontificating about my client's state of mind as this was going on, because he can't really speak to that.
So that would just go to they really didn't care part. And then you're saying the fact that he's saying they were taking Xanax is.
I don't know his basis of knowledge of that, but I don't believe that to be true, but I don't know his basis of knowledge of that.
All right, Ms. Love.
So, Judge, my argument right now until I speak to him is that he is in the car with the persons that he's speaking to the detectives about. He has the opportunity to observe them up close. The question posed, as the court can see, is did they feel some kind of way that you didn't get out of the car? We believe that the evidence has shown and will continue to show that these people he's in the car with that are shooting up these houses are his friends. He's known them for a long time, and his personal observations of them and personal knowledge of them is what allows him to make the assertion that he does, that as to.
Let Raising Cane's take something off your plate this time of year by putting something on it with hand-battered chicken fingers.
Essentially. So that's the reason why they didn't mind him not getting out of the car. We'd argue that it's intrinsic. It could go to why they would be so brazen as to do something like that. But the fact that they were high while they were shooting, the fact that it incidentally touches on someone's character.
Okay, so I don't have I don't think I'm going to overrule it as to character. And if you can establish that he actually knew they were on Xanax and high, that's fine. On the they really didn't care part, are you maintaining that part should come in?
Yes.
Because his observation is that
they didn't mind. He's offering up an explanation as to why. Basically, the investigator's a little bit incredulous that, wait, you.
Right. What's the motive? The motive's just they were high.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you can establish that he knows that they were on Xanax, then I will let you use that part. So overruled as to character and sort of like to be determined as to the basis of knowledge on whether they were high or not.
I put subject to foundation.
Okay.
So that is number. So the next one is further down. Mr. Zachary is asked by the prosecutor, what was you all's intention when you all headed over there? He says that we were going to kill one of the boys. And then the prosecutor says, and one of the boys, I know we talked about a bunch of names, but which of the guys were you looking for? And then Mr. Zachary responds, the request is to take out 17 through 25 all the way.
Yeah, I think just
I'm
17
sorry,
through
25,
17 through 20.
Yes, I'm sorry. So 17 through 20,
Right.
he's specifically talking about their intentions when they went on this shooting spree. I think that it's not only relevant, intrinsic, it gives a motive for what they were doing. He has personal knowledge of it. He was in the car. They were riding together.
Okay, well, as long as you establish that he knew that's what they were planning to do, and it's not.
And he doesn't say they, he says that we were going to kill one of the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I maybe need to put on my glasses. Thought that said they were, but that we were, yes.
So, Your Honor, let me just back up. So this is an incident where houses were shot up. Mr. Zachary was charged, and in his proffer session, he's given testimony to try to get himself a deal. And I understand that's subject for cross-examination. My client was never charged.
Okay.
Mr. Zachary is throwing my client's name into this. And I understand that's subject for cross-examination as well. But when he says, what was y'all's intention?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it strikes me that Mr. Zachary can speak to his own intention, unless he says Mr. Stillwell was there and this is what Mr. Stillwell said or something of that nature. He can speak to his own intention, what his intention was, and the state can ask him on the stand, Mr. Zachary, when you went over to the house, what was your plan? But unless someone else articulated their plan to Mr. Zachary, I don't think he's authorized to speak to what anyone else's plan was or intention was. And when he starts saying, and it's not his fault because
Of the way it's
Mr. Bailey
asked.
inartfully asked what was y'all's intention, and that prompted him to speak for other people.
Well, I understand, and it may very well be that you can establish that they all had a joint intention because they had had some sort of talk about it beforehand. Or
And they actually he reveals earlier in the interview that they do discuss it.
all right, so where's that?
So up on line 4, he says, because he said we're not going to shoot a house, do that to them. So on line 2, Investigator Dennis asks, why does Moontoon, and that is actually Antonio Sledge, it's spelled wrong, tell you not to get out of the car? He said, Mr. Zachary said, because he said, we don't shoot up houses, leave that to them. That's one point that they're talking. Further back on line, page 24, when Mr. Zachary is talking to Detective Dennis about the kind of guns that they have, he's naming them.
Okay, I mean, it does look like they kind of had.
Well, you're
Discover your new Acura right now at Frank Lita Acura. Like the 2024 Acura.
And so I don't find respectfully what Ms. Love said to really address the issue.
All right, so where is it that your client gets, what is it that is indicating that he's talking, his speech includes your client if your client's not in the car?
No, my client is supposedly in the car according to Mr. Zachary. But what Ms. Love talked about is Moontoon telling Mr. Zachary to not get out the car, saying we don't shoot up houses, leave that to them. What that has to do with my client's intent to kill someone, I'm not seeing that link at all. And my whole point is this, Your Honor, if they can establish that that through Mr. Zachary, that my client indicated what the intent was, what the plan was, that's not in this transcript. That's going to come across through live testimony, which would render these prior statements, out-of-court statements, irrelevant anyways, because it would have been established through live testimony.
Right.
So I don't know why we would keep this in the transcript.
Well, Judge, I thought that the whole purpose of this exercise was assuming that they don't.
It is. Okay, so assuming you need to use it as a prior inconsistent statement.
Yes, and in response to Mr. Sharp, Mr. Zachary is talking about his own intent and his understanding of what the conspiracy was. Arguably, this is a conspiratorial act of going out to shoot. We were going to kill one of the boys. So he does not, I don't think that it's improper for him to be able to talk about what the intentions of the group that he is acting as a part of were, as shown by their actions and their words throughout the course of the conspiracy itself.
But if his statement is just based on assumptions he's making through the actions of others, then the jurors are in a similar place as Mr. Zachary to make that, to draw that conclusion.
But Mr.
So
Zachary,
I don't understand why Mr. Zachary, his conclusion about what my client's intent was, would be particularly helpful or relevant to anything unless my client articulated it to him. And from my understanding of what Mr. Zachary's saying is he gets a call from his girlfriend Summer. Mr. Garlington and Mr. Sledge leave the club. Mr. Zachary doesn't know, according to his story, he doesn't know how Mr. Stillwell gets in the car because he wasn't at the club. And then they pick up Zachary last. And Zachary does not describe any conversation in the car on the way to these houses or anything like that. He doesn't give any context about communication. He's just kind of like, I got in the car and this is where we went.
so Judge, this is also the third interview that Mr. Zachary gave. He gave one earlier in 2015. This one occurred in 2017. So there are statements about this same incident in the 2015 interview as well. So we haven't gone through that one, but I could cross-reference that as well and provide those cross-references to the court. But the reality is that an assertion by a co-conspirator, if everyone is acting towards the same goal and people are getting shot up, houses are getting shot up, and
With assault rifles that are in the car.
right.
Yeah, I'm going to overrule that. All right,
25.
28, line 17.
The
No.
font is a little small. I'm just having.
I'm sorry?
I need the court's glasses. I'm just
28,
trying to get down.
line 1 through 3.
And with this one, Your Honor, I'm not trying to mislead anyone. If one of my colleagues tells me I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. My recollection, there has been no testimony about someone being shot in these houses.
Okay.
If I'm wrong about that, feel free to correct in this incident. The
So
shooting of
this
the houses.
this one we have given the list of 30 witnesses, and one of the first witnesses after Mr. Zachary is the young lady who lives at this house and her sister getting shot at. So there hasn't been.
Did somebody get shot at this house?
Yes.
And that evidence will come in through this what's the name of that witness?
Miss Bell and her sister Cecilia.
So they're coming to testify?
I see him on the witness list.
You don't see them?
I do. I see Denise Bell. I don't know what the other person's name is. So
my officers strive to do everything in their power to be that support system for.
So then that is all right. All right, number 6. And I guess let's make this 3-page proffer or proposed edits, a record of part of an exhibit to today's proceedings. So in the event of an eventual review, whomever is reviewing it will know what we're talking about when we say on to number 6.
Can we make, you don't want us to use the one we're writing on, you want to make it
just a clean copy.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we're all writing on ours right now. So yeah, just a clean copy, and it can be,
We can do that.
I don't care who makes it an exhibit.
Okay.
It's basically just for purposes of the record. I can make it a court's exhibit to today, court's exhibit 1. I'll print out a clean copy right now. All right.
Okay. So the next one is page 29, line 10 through 29, line 11. So going back, Your Honor, you can see from page 28, line you can go back up as far as line 7, but you'll see that there's context. You want to pause?
No.
Okay, you can see that there's context. Mr. Zachary is talking about where they went, what they did, and at line 18, he's talking about the house on Oak. And later on, you have Investigator Dennis talking about his familiarity with the house.
Right.
The fact that he offers a concrete fact, his knowledge about the house, and Mr. Zachary doesn't correct him or doesn't say anything about it, I would argue it just goes to the
correct him
effect.
to that?
I mean, it's not something that by itself is very material. There's just
Then take it out. Strike it. Granted.
Yeah. Okay. Out.
All right. I'm just writing August 6, 2024, Courts Exhibit 1, as to this 3-page
Yes, Your Honor.
proposed reductions. Okay.
So the number 7 is page 33, line 1 through 35, line 14. That actually starts back up on page 32, or actually 31, where Mr. Zachary is talking about Trevante. So page 31, line 16, where Dennis says, got it, you were sitting behind Montun, Demikian is in the back with you and Shannon is in front, and then and then Mr. Zachary says they were in another car, yeah, and they go on and talk about that. My argument is that the portion that they're asking to keep out is all information Dennis is exchanging with Quindarius Zachary about activities that YSL and Rivals are sort of involved in. Mr. Dennis talks about how they thought it was Kale, and Mr. Zachary says, no, he corrects them, no, and then Dennis says, well, enlighten me, and he's like, no, you go ahead. But Zachary later on line 17 says they tried to say that we did it, acknowledging that there is a we, acknowledging in a way that helps to prove count 1 in our indictment. There is a they who is an opposition group who tried to say that we did it. We being YSL.
Where is the part where the opposition group is saying they thought we did it? I see the investigator saying we thought y'all did it, but
No, line 17, where he says they tried to say that we did it on on page 33.
oh, it's back on page 35. I'm sorry. Okay. And so this would be to establish
The existence of the enterprise, the gang, and the fact that there's an opposition and a they and a we.
all right.
On this
Pull your mic towards you if you don't mind.
on this
It
alleged
moves, so you can just move it up on your desk, maybe. I don't know.
with
I
this-
know they're all annoying. They get in the way.
with this alleged incident, the shooting up the houses, Mr. Zachary also puts a gentleman, two gentlemen, a Trevante Turner and a Tay, as being in the caravan with them shooting up these houses. Trevante Turner is sadly deceased. He has never been, I've never heard anyone allege that he was a member of YSL. The paper just reported that he was associated with, I believe it was If Gang.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna go on what the paper says.
I understand, but the state has never alleged that. He's not charged in this.
Okay.
This is a gentleman who, has not. There's been no allegations that he's been affiliated with us. I believe that there's a suggestion that he's a friend of Kenneth Copeland's, but that's it. So I don't want it to come in, but I don't have a legal argument at this point against them. Mr. Zachary saying Trevante Turner was part of this mission that he's claiming existed. But at the times that I highlighted that I have a problem with, it's talking about a wholly unrelated incident where Trevante Turner, who's not one of us, and Shell Kell, who is Kelvin Watts, were having their own side beef and shooting at each other. And I believe Trevante was shot maybe by Shell Kell. Mr. Watts was maybe shot by Trevante, but it has nothing to do with this indictment. It's not alleged as an overt act, and it has nothing to do with, if I were to, for the purposes of this argument, agree that there's a group called YSL and it's a criminal street gang, which obviously is an issue here, this incident would have nothing to do with that. And it's just talking about, and they're just really treating it as small talk. That he's telling a story and then it's a little aside about Trevante, which has nothing to do with this case.
All right, Ms. Lett, what do you have to say about that?
We had served in discovery a PowerPoint that involves, just as it relates to the assertion by Mr. Sharp that Trevante Turner was not associated with YSL. And in that PowerPoint that we served, we reflect on one of the slides at January 27th of 2015 incident 150262801 on Stanhope Circle, where shots were fired, specifically where Trevante Turner was shot. And it's listed that he is an associate of YSL/30D. Just to go to the assertion that there's never been any indication about Trevante Turner being YSL.
Well,
but
an associate of YSL and a member of YSL aren't the same thing.
They aren't, but I'm not asserting one way or the other as it relates to associate or member with respect to Trevante Turner. What I'm saying is that in saying that they tried to say we did it, Quindarius Zachary, when we charge the gang act, associate or member, it doesn't matter. associates commit acts with the gang. So it doesn't in any way cut against, is my position, my argument that in saying they try to say we did it, he's not just talking about a random group of men. He's talking about them as a group that operates as YSL is the argument that I would make.
Well,
Who's the they here?
The person.
Go ahead.
she does.
So
All right, let me.
So if gang is the gang that
So
they're
is that the they here? This is the
associates
part of the gang
yes.
that there's the alleged beef back and forth
Yes.
and the series of shooting, the members that are involved in this little, even if it's a side incident, are all that gang?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if that's the money line, they tried to say, like, how's that admissible? They tried to say we did it. I mean, false accusations by an unnamed group about something that the declarant, in this case, Mr. Zachary, is actually saying they were wrong about. How's that admissible to anything? And if that's the key section, that's inadmissible in itself. But I think this whole section is just wholly irrelevant, and it confuses the issues.
And if the court goes on,
Success Vision is now in St. Louis.
Success Vision is my favorite place to get glasses in St. Louis.
If you live near Maplewood and you need glasses, go to Success Vision.
At Success Vision, I bought 2 pairs of glasses for $39, and they were ready in an hour.
Glasses in an hour. Done in 1 hour.
Same day service. They have a Maplewood store. It's in front of the Walmart and Sam's.
I did 2 sets of glasses for $39.
2 pairs for $39.
2 pairs for $39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
At Checkers and Rallies, we're ready to elevate your flavor game for just $1.99. Introducing the new Fry Seasoned Chicken Tender Wrap, where crispy all
the existence of the gang itself. Yeah, that's what they say. Is what Quindarius Zachary says. He's not pushing back against the notion that they would be laying in watch for Shell Kell. He's just saying, yeah, that's what they say. There's an acknowledgement still of an opposition and of a group that he belongs to.
All right.
He's literally saying, no, that didn't happen.
Right. But she's not offering it for whether it happened the way they said it happened or not. She's offering it for the concept that Mr. Zachary is saying, yeah, there's this we here that is YSL, and that is certainly relevant to the issues in this case. And if you want some kind, I mean, if it even comes in, because I assume, this is all if he doesn't testify as the state thinks he will, and then they have to impeach him, although, it would be interesting to see how you use this and what you would be using this to impeach for, because if your purpose with it is to establish there's a we and a they, then he'd have to testify inconsistently to that for you to be able to use this. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
And Your Honor,
and if that is what you're able to then use it for, I mean, I'd be happy to limit that this is only for the purpose of that, and it's not for whatever may or may not have happened with regard to some side shooting incident.
And let me just say that in his statements, Mr. Zachary, in his statements, and if he testified, I anticipate, he doesn't deny that there's a group called YSL.
Right.
He doesn't deny any of this. So I don't think that these issues are really. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is this one may be one that never materializes, because I would say this is potentially admissible as impeachment on the issue that you're saying you want it for, not anything as to whatever this actual shooting is. Understand?
Yes, and
Okay.
my understanding about the exercise overall is just to identify those portions that just absolutely cannot come in.
Right. So I don't want you up here saying, so, hey, tell me about this time that, you and whomever were involved in this shooting with the, whatever it is.
So unless, I understand fully. Like,
Then
in
he
other words,
says
don't
something
try to
different. You're like,
don't try to impeach him just to get in some ancillary, otherwise inadmissible thing.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Number 8 being page 36, lines 1 through 30.
I'm sorry, I haven't read it all, but if it is gang members being happy because Gaither's not working anymore, how's that relevant?
So, Your Honor,
yes,
I would argue. But I can concede that and say that there's really not. I can let that one go. I can stipulate to that.
Okay.
I just like it.
And Your Honor, I think I may have made an error on that. 36 1 to 24 is certainly about that. I'm not certain 37 8 to 18 is about that same thing.
Okay.
I thought we were just doing the 1 through 24 first.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, he's got it all as number 8. So,
okay.
All right. So agreed that 36, that part is out. So turn into 37, 8 through 18.
So in 37, 8 to 18, as I understand it, they're trying to identify Tay, and they're showing a picture of Tay with a car, and they're saying, is that the car? And then Investigator Underwood and Dennis and Zachary are agreeing, no, that's not the car. That's the car that got...
Quietest dishwasher in the land. Like a Bosch. Dishes drier than the
person named Kel. It's just about Tay's other car that was not involved in the April 28th, 2015 shooting up houses being shot up. It's just talk about another car being shot up.
All right. Is that relevant?
So, Judge, in context 37, Mr. Sharp's objection goes all the way into page 38, unless I'm reading it wrong.
No, it's 37, 8 to 18, right?
Correct.
Okay. For now, Judge, I can stipulate to that. I don't see any reason to keep that part in right now.
All right, so that is also out by agreement.
And Your Honor, should anything, and I don't anticipate it, but should anything come up that causes me to ask the court, hey, there's something I agreed to that I need to get in now because
let's not wait until the last minute to do it. Okay.
It would only be by virtue of something happening on the stand.
Okay. I mean, can you imagine a scenario why it suddenly becomes relevant that some other car that...
It's not the car being shot up. It's Mr. Zachary giving the description of the individuals and his knowledge of certain individuals.
Tay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's lines 3 and 4. Is that Tay? Yeah.
And 16, where he's talking about the other boy called Kale. Those sort of instances. I don't foresee them being necessary, but I didn't want to not say to the court, hey, this might come up.
Okay, well, so maybe if there's some issue as to who Kel is. Okay.
And then I think that the next one on number 8 is all of page 38.
Yeah.
It's 38 line 8 to 39 line 11.
Hold on. 38. Line 8.
Okay.
Through 39, 11.
Well, really to 39. It's
Through 39, line 1.
the end of 39.
Okay.
Oh.
It's two different incidents. It's a discussion about people saying on the street. Again, I'm just trying to clean up this transcript. It's just going to be confusing to people. I don't care if all sorts of bad things come up in about Tay one way or another.
Right.
But I'm just trying to limit confusion that
Right.
the jurors would have. And they're talking about people on the street saying that Tay shot up Rich Homie Kwan's dad's barber shop. Rich Homie Kwan's father is a barber and runs a barber shop.
All right. She may agree.
I have no objection to 8 through with the clarification that he made because I thought it was the whole page.
Okay.
So I have no objection to 8 through 24.
Okay.
Of
So
page 38.
all right.
And then on 39, uh, 30 to 39:19, 1 through 19.
39, 1.
39, 9 through 19, or
1
just
through
all
19.
one? Okay.
I have no objection to 1 through 13, where he stops at.
Okay, so 13 is the end of the Rich Homie Kwan
Right.
barber shop.
Yes.
And then they start talking about Tay shot Kel.
And
I don't represent Tay. Tay's not associated. So, but it's just I just think it would be confusing.
Why is it?
Tay is associated. That's what we were just talking about. Tay being Trevante.
Right. Who is dead and not on trial here, right?
Well, that's true, unfortunately.
Okay. So is it relevant? I mean, I would assume you want a clean, clear story to the extent you can have one as well. So is this relevant to the story the state is attempting to tell?
Yes, it goes over into page 40. There's a video that we're going to have with Quindaria Zachary, Antonio Sledge, I think Demekion Garlington, and they're saying they're talking to Shell Kell, who is If Gang, and I think that they have a gun. That's my memory, that they have a long gun, and they're saying we ain't going back and forth, and they're saying disparaging things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's over a girl named Antrevia Smith. And when the court sees Tree in this transcript, they're talking about Antrevia.
Okay.
So
I'm Selena Gill, CEO of Fairborn Show Candle Company. And these are my sons, Ryan Gill and Austin Gill.
I'm talking about one associate or member of YSL, Trevante, and we're going on into the fact that Antonio Sledge and Shell Kell were seeing Antrevia. We're getting into information that we've noticed the defense that we're going to introduce anyway. So I don't know why this would not.
I don't know or understand the nexus between Mr. Sledge threatening Kel on social media over a common girlfriend and Tay shooting Kel. I mean, I'm not talking bad about the guy. I think there was probably a lot of people that had problems with Mr. Kelvin Watts, and
we'll take it out.
Tay shooting.
All right, they'll take it out.
We'll take out. So it's going to be 15 through 21.
All right, so we already agreed to 39, 1 through 13. So I think this would start at 14. 39, 14 through what?
14 through 21.
I have 4215. It bleeds into number 9. I think that's why I was unclear. I made it its own separate one, this issue.
Wait, what now?
To number 9 on my list is the continued discussion about the beef between Kel and Trevante, and they start out with Trevante shooting Kel, and then they talk about how Kel allegedly shot up Trevia's house. Again, something that I don't believe that the police believe is true. That was Mr. Zachary.
We don't.
Saying his understanding was that Kel shot up his girlfriend Trevia's house.
All right. Hang on.
So,
Liv.
in as much as Mr. Sharp said that the police don't rather believe that Mr. Zachary's line about Kelvin Watts shooting up Entrevia's house, that part is correct, because Entrevia Smith relayed to police when she gave them that video that Kelvin Watts was in the house with her. Mm-hmm. So in as much as Quindarius Zachary is attempting to push responsibility from what we believe is one member of his group to a member of the opposition group, I would think that would be relevant. It wouldn't be the first thing that I would ask him. It's something that I don't think is inadmissible, but it's also something that at this time, we're going to talk to him. We've noticed the defense about our intent to talk about when Entrevia Smith's house got shot up. Mm-hmm. It's just not every line of this portion that Mr. Sharp has labeled number 9. We may not get into every single line there, but the topic itself is what we did notice them that we're going to introduce evidence of.
If they bring up shooting of Trevia's house, that's one thing, and that's, it may or may not be relevant. But my issue, and I don't agree with the state's characterization about Mr. Zachary lying about it. What we're dealing with here is not Mr. Zachary lying. Mr. Zachary wasn't at Trevia Smith's house. Mr. Zachary was not shooting at Trevia Smith's house or being shot at Miss Smith's house, Trevia Smith's house. Mr. Zachary is passing on rumors that he's heard through the grapevine about who did what, and the police are saying, well, we don't believe that's accurate because we believe that Shell Kel was in the house. So how could he shoot up the house? So it's whether it's a relevant topic or not, it's all based on hearsay that Mr. Zachary has no firsthand knowledge of.
Judge, I just point the court's attention to the first line of page 41. And I'd also point out that Mr. Zachary was in that video that Entrevia gave over to the police after her house got shot up. He was in the video along with Antonio Sledge, where they were threatening Kelvin Watts.
All right. Let me ask you this. Could you take a closer look at the rest of 39 through 42 and maybe sort out what part of that you think, if he doesn't testify as you think he will, you would use to impeach him on a relevant issue? And then maybe get back to us on this one?
Yes.
Okay. Because I kind of hear you saying even you think not all of it is anything you would want or need. Okay.
And that's all the way through 42.
All right. So.
You are walking through in being the voyeur of my mind.
So the next one is number 10 is 42. Line 17 through 44, line 6. So when the objection is lack of personal knowledge, I am laboring under the assumption that Mr. Sharp's belief is that Mr. Zachary lacks personal knowledge. I would just ask that the court allow it, because it's all opposition actions towards one another. Shell Kell shot up the gambling house. On McDonald Boulevard, Dennis asks on page 43, line 1, that's when Thug's car got shot, right? I believe, if we haven't already, I believe that we have we've touched on that there was a shooting where his car got shot. But it may have been with Kenneth Copeland and some of the stuff that we have to redo.
Right.
But Mr. Zachary is saying, yeah, shot up Thug's car. Thug wasn't studying it. All of that information, maybe not like that, but that information we anticipate bringing out. So to the extent that Mr. Sharp objects and has as his basis lack of personal knowledge, I would just ask that the court find that it's admissible subject to the proper foundation being laid for it.
Okay. That seems reasonable if you can lay the foundation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. After consulting with others, we're going to withdraw our objection.
Okay. All right. All right. So I'm going to take that out. All right, number 11.
45.
That should, number 11 should be 46,
Okay.
line 15.
Okay. 46, 15 through 16.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong. It was supposed to be 45.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They're all talking about an unrelated, they're talking about a girl named Clenethia Rant. And then Mr. Zachary just says she's dead. And then they talk about the circumstances of her murder.
I don't have.
All right, she agrees.
Coming out.
Okay.
What's her name?
So
that's 45, 15 through 46, 16. I agree. Okay, let me interrupt y'all a minute. I have word that Mr. Copeland is here and available right now, so why don't we pause what we're doing with this and have him in, see if he has an attorney, see if he wants an attorney. We don't yet have anything put together that I'm going to advise him of, but
I'm good with that.
We could get through a little bit more of this, tell him to hold tight, take a lunch break where y'all can come up with something. But I could at least find out about the attorney issue right now.
I think that's
okay.
from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good morning, Mr. Copeland. I'm Judge Whitaker. I think you've been before me before in unrelated matters.
Huh?
I'm the judge taking over this case now. So go ahead and have a seat. What I want to ask you right now, I know that you have been given immunity with regard to your testimony, and there had been at some point you didn't want to testify, at some point you did want to testify. The first question I have for you...
I never wanted to testify.
Okay, the first... Well, right, want to is maybe the wrong term. But my question for you right now is, do you have an attorney at all?
I don't know.
You don't know whether you have an attorney? I would think that would be a no then, if you don't know whether
I was talking to Melanie, but...
Melnick?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't he ask to be relieved as your attorney, and did you sign something saying that's okay, you can get out of this?
I don't.
You don't remember? Okay. Does anybody know whether that actually occurred?
I don't believe it occurred. I believe that Miss Bumpus,
I know she was stand-in.
She was stand-in, and I believe something was said on the record to the effect that Miss Bumpus was relieved. But
yeah, I know she was.
There was nothing about Mr. Melnick to my knowledge.
Okay, maybe
There was. Miss Bumpus actually said yesterday, I believe, during her testimony, that Mr. Melnick had directed her to tell Mr. Copeland that he could either exercise his,
choose not to testify.
Right. Or if he chose to testify, according to Miss Bumpus.
Yeah, I remember she said, there's this paper I'm supposed to get him to sign. I'm trying to figure out whether it got signed.
So I never got Mr. Melnick off my case.
Okay, so he's still your attorney then?
I guess.
Okay, all right. Well, then that's the answer we've got for that. All right, so I'm going to try to get a hold of Mr. Melnick and see if he can be here with us this afternoon, because some of what I suspect you recall when you were brought into Judge Glanville's chambers with Miss Bumpus and a couple of the people from the state, and there was a discussion that Miss Bumpus and Miss Hilton and Judge Glanville had with you. You asked some questions. They gave you some information. Some of that information was not actually factually correct. And I want to make sure that you have the opportunity understanding what it is that the immunity order means, understanding what the potential consequences are if you do testify or if you don't. We're basically going to kind of start over and
So if
do
I
that
don't
over.
testify, So if I don't testify, how long you gonna hold me in jail?
So, I mean, that's still an issue that you can be held in jail through the end of this trial. But I'd rather have Mr. Melnick here to advise you about the potential drawbacks and benefits of what, if there are any,
This
of any
trial
of
right
your.
here? To the end of this trial?
Yes.
Not the other people.
Not as far as I believe, but the state, what, did you want to do some further research on that?
Yes, just to advise the court of.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, first off, do you have an attorney? Because if you do have an attorney, then your attorney may have some information, advice, and research for me about that. So I want to make sure that I tell you the correct thing about that, okay? So we're going to take a lunch break in a little while, and why don't we plan to have you back here on standby at least. I don't know who was in communication, but we need to reach out to Mr. Melnick, see what his availability is. So just be on standby in case I need you here like at 2 or 3 this afternoon.
2 or 3?
Yeah, because we're about to take a lunch break before too much longer. So you're okay to leave for the next couple of hours, but stay where whomever reached out from the state can reach you to let you know whether you need to be back here this afternoon or potentially tomorrow instead, okay?
All right.
All right, thank you. So, I don't know who. Okay, my litigation manager is going to reach out to Mr. Melnick, see if he can get a hold of, see if she can get a hold of Mr. Melnick and find out what his availability is. And depending upon his availability, we'll just see when it is that we have Mr. Copeland back. Because I want him to have the benefit of counsel. And then I also want y'all over the lunch break to work on whatever you think ought to be the correct advice to him. And if you, the state, believe that it is possible to hold him past the trial for which he is under subpoena, then you show me what authority lets you believe that. Okay? All right, yeah.
One thing, I think that the transcript reflects this from June 10th, and as well as Ms. Bumpus's testimony yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
She was emphatic that Mr. Melnick said, if you testify, I'm not representing you. So, and with the fact that Mr. Copeland said...
No, what he said was, if you plead the fifth, I'm not representing you. So I don't know, what that means. I'm just going to reach out to Mr. Melnick, and at least Mr. Copeland thinks Mr. Melnick is still representing him. And if Mr. Copeland never signed whatever that was relieving him, I don't know exactly what their arrangement is.
No matter the struggle, from living without insurance, a home, to raising 2 children.
It's in of this before we break, because it's not even noon yet, and we were making some progress, which is good. All right, so we were on number 12.
Number 12 being page 47, lines, if I'm reading correctly, line 14 through page 50, line 8?
Yes.
Okay. So, Your Honor, the objection to this portion of it, just to give you a little bit of background. So, this fight happened around January the 6th, and it did begin with Mr. Copeland, according to the reports from our investigators, but it involved more than one member of YSL, more than one alleged member of YSL. Mr. Bloody J, who is a member of If Gang, was on the other side of the fight from YSL, and other people who are in the courtroom now participated in that with them. So Mr. Zachary's rendition of what happened, we would argue it's Mr. Zachary's knowledge of and participation in this gang is what allows him to be able to tell this to Detective Dennis. Mr. Sharp's assertion, it does not appear that he was there, I don't think is a ground to exclude it. Assuming that the court is satisfied with the foundation that the state lays for Mr. Zachary's
being
ability
a co-conspirator.
Yes, we would argue that it's admissible. It's
So do you know whether he was there or not?
So
let me ask Mr. Sharp, is the basis for you saying you don't think he was there that no on line 23 when Is that the basis of it?
What page, line 23?
47, line 23? Because I don't think that no is actually an answer to...
No,
okay.
It's not based on that.
Okay.
You
have no reason to believe.
No.
Okay.
I actually do not know he was there, and I haven't heard anyone talk about him being there.
Do we know whether he was there?
Page 48, line 5. Start at line.
Oh, so we went back there. Yeah.
Okay. If he was in fact there, then
and then
I would
somewhere else he says, would he? Okay. All right. Well, then you'll withdraw that objection?
If he was there, then yes.
Okay. So that number 12 is withdrawn. All right. Number 13.
My understanding is this is page 54, line 18 through page 55, line 11.
Yeah, let's take that up first.
So the state has no objection to page 54, lines 18 through 22, where investigator Dennis says, who they say killed him, meaning Donovan Thomas. Zachary repeats the question. Ultimately, Zachary says, shoot, they say Woody and them, I don't know for a fact. So I would agree and argue that he don't know.
Okay.
So it's
he's
not.
telling them.
Okay. So 54, line 18 through 22, you concede should be redacted.
So, and let me also give further clarification. Mr. Zachary, later, he tells earlier in 2015, he relays to law enforcement about statements made to him by 2 people in the courtroom now. And 2 people admitting having killed Donovan Thomas.
Okay.
This statement right here is after 2 years later. So, when he says, they say Woody and them, I don't know for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody argued that that's an inconsistent statement that should come in. What I feel is a lie is irrelevant, but I'm not objecting to it coming out.
Okay.
So, Your Honor, we got a lot of moving parts here, because eventually, I agree with Ms. Love. Eventually, in this statement, Mr. Zachary claims that Mr. Kendrick told him that they killed Nutt, and Mr. Stillwell told him that they killed Mr. Thomas.
Okay.
So I anticipate, because, I was doing this for Mr. Stillwell, but I anticipate other counsel in this courtroom arguing that are affected by this, arguing that this is spilling the beans and it's not a statement by a co-conspirator and therefore not admissible.
Which part are we talking about?
Okay.
I think.
Okay. So, right. Okay.
Okay.
So if I guess I'll rewind. I will say that if there is testimony, either through direct testimony or cross-examination or impeachment,
Mm-hmm.
that my client said something to Mr. Zachary, or that Mr. Kendrick said something to Mr. Zachary, then I would want to get that in.
18 through 22.
Right, because it would be inconsistent with the claims he says later on. Here he's saying, well, they're saying Woody and other people,
right,
but then later on he says, my client directly said this.
All right,
so if that comes in, I'd want to use that for impeachment.
I'd have to know who the they is here. right? Before that could be, if the they is Mr. Kendrick or Mr. Stillwell, yes. But if the they is some random amorphous gossip rag,
well,
no.
It would be relevant because if he's telling the truth, okay, assuming he's telling the truth.
Oh, I see I see what you mean. Yeah. If he's already said, or he will later say.
He's going to say that he already said in a different statement, and later in this statement, he's going to say that my client told him at night. And if he's holding that information, then him answering, they saying Wooby and them, I don't know.
All right, I still need to find out who the they is then, because the question posed by the investigator is who they say killed him.
I think
right? So
who the streets are saying.
Okay, well then for Mr. Zachary to say, here's what the street is saying is not inconsistent with, but I actually know because the perpetrator told me it's the perpetrator. So that would not be this 18 through 22 would not be inconsistent to a statement by Zachary that Mr. Kendrick and or Mr. Stillwell told me personally that they're the ones that did it. You see what I mean?
I see what you mean. I would argue that would be the time a reasonable person would say who they say did it. Well, if my client had said he did it, say, well, I don't even need to tell you who they said.
All right. Well, I would reject that argument. So that's out. All right. So next. Is page 54, line 23 through 5511. Is that all going to be the same?
That is all.
Chunk of whatever. Okay.
So we're starting at page 57, line 22?
No, 54. Because all we dealt with was 54, 18 through 22. It goes all the way through 55, 11. So, okay. You was with them at the condo afterwards. I was there. I mean, that.
All of that we would object to it being redacted out. All of this is Mr. Copeland talking about.
Okay. So, all right.
Not Mr. Copeland, Mr. Zachary, my apologies.
Okay, so now I'm seeing Mr. Shard as I read on further. He's going back to well, that's what they say. I don't know for a fact.
Right.
I see what I mean, I hadn't read that part before. Who did they say? God, I don't even know if we're talking about the street here, because you was with them at the condo afterwards. I was there, but shoot. That what they say? I don't know for a fact.
Right.
I'm saying, who did they say killed him? He may at this point mean, who did they, the people you are at the condo with, say? So, can anybody actually point me?
This particular interview, no, not as it relates to
good Lord.
Statement right here. Because it's one of those.
It's all over the place.
No, it's as it relates to the way that Dennis is talking to Zachary.
Yeah.
He means it just like if I were to just pop up and say, who did they say did it? There's no they identified.
Is there a video of this?
Yeah.
All right. I may need to watch the video of this part, because maybe the inflection will let me know whether he means. Let me watch the video on this. Can y'all send me that and then give me a timestamp for this part? Let me revisit that whole thing, including the 18 through 22 part.
If you send, I don't know if you have the times marked, but if you send the video that shows Mr. Zachary's face kind of zoomed in, I think it's an MP4 video. I think it's right around 27 minutes, 30 seconds.
27 minutes, 30 seconds.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Per my notes.
Okay, thanks.
Are we gonna move, to the next one, or just?
Yeah, no, I'll take a look at that offline unless y'all got it queued up right now. I'll take a look at that offline if y'all will send me that video. So yeah, let's, if 5722 through 23, is a separate kind of issue, we can move on to that one. All right.
I have 3 digits. I know it's meant to be a typo. Probably is it just 5722 to 5723? Because it has 223.
I think so. Your objection, Mr. Shart, here is 57 lines 22 and 23.
I'm going to withdraw that.
Okay. So that one is not objected to. All right. Moving on to number 14, which is page 60, line 19 through 61, line 20.
So, Your Honor, this is
I'm going to withdraw that one as well.
All right. Okay, then our next item is on page 65, lines 8 through 20.
We're on number 15?
Yes.
It's, and my objection to this is just incorrect rendition of the law, explaining, Investigator Dennis is explaining to Quindarius Zachary why he's guilty by association.
Yeah, yeah, and I suspect he was not offering that as here's what the law is. He was offering that as here's what we law enforcement consider you to be, but
Right.
I can understand that. You wanna agree to that, Ms. Love?
Judge, is the court will give my counsel is sitting here whispering in my ear. The court will give me 1 second.
To get there and consider it, yes, I will give you a second to do that.
I'm here in the court.
We'll see. I'll give you about 10 more seconds to make your decision, and I'm just going to make my ruling.
I don't object to 65-8 through 65-20 coming out.
All right. So that is out by agreement.
And Your Honor,
Yes.
yeah, I don't have any objection.
Discover your new Acura right now at Frank Lita Acura. Like the 2024 Acura.
15, and then 16 starts at page 66. Line 12 through 66, line 18 is what I understand. Your Honor, this is one of the acts that's listed as an overt act in this indictment. As I'm reading it, page 66, line 12 starts out talking about the gun that Mr. Zachary got caught with on May the 7th, and then Investigator Dennis goes on to say the assault rifle you're in the video with, and he's saying what it came back to. And then you have Mr. Zachary saying that's Moon's gun. But he is acknowledging that he and Mr. Sledge, who the state alleges, Mr. Sledge already pled, but Mr. Zachary is indeed YSL. So they're swapping guns. We would just argue that this is evidence of count 1 and the gang count in this case.
That's not my issue.
Count 1.
Okay, so do you have an issue with lines 12 through 18?
I do have an issue with 12 to 18. I don't have an issue with him saying that he gave the gun to Moontoon or that's Moontoon's gun. That's fine. What I have an issue with is saying with Investigator Dennis, saying that the ballistics from that gun matched the May 7th shooting of Lucci's Bennett's mom's house. And there's a couple reasons. It's not Bennett put in evidence.
Okay, well, hang on. Maybe we can address your objection and still have in the portion that Ms. Love wants it for by really redacting a smaller part of it.
I should have said 16 to 17 if I was to be more precise.
Okay, so any issue with just with redacting out 16 and 17, Investigator Dennis's statement about it having come back to that?
Not for the purposes of Quindarius Act. No objection at all.
Okay. So that's 66, 17 through 18, out by agreement. Okay, and next we move to 68, 24, and 25.
It's yeah.
Was the court asking?
I don't. Mr. Sharp, did that have some issue?
Right. 60. They're going back to Lucci mom's house, and then they're saying the gun you got caught with has something on it you didn't know until you went to court yesterday. So I think that should come out 6819.
Okay, so then maybe we just aren't lined up with line numbers.
Yeah, that's
so 68, 19 through 21, right?
I would say
25.
Because then they go to Lucci mom again.
Well, 24 maybe.
Right. Okay.
Okay, right?
Yes.
So 19 through 24, out.
And then...
All right, hang on. Let's make sure that we've got agreement on that.
So 19 through 24, so that's page 60.
Page 68, lines 19 through 24. Do you agree? It's basically the same issue.
The issue that I have here is that I would object to that because Mr. Zachary admits that it has shootings on it. He knows it's one of the guns used in one of the shootings. So, even though, as it relates to the previous portion that I agreed to, and arguably even with the previous portion, the effect on Mr. Zachary, him not denying that or him not expressing surprise, but instead saying, oh, that's Motu's gun. In this particular case, when Dennis says what he says, Mr. Zachary doesn't say, what? Oh my gosh, no. And
I'm in court the day before. He didn't know.
But Judge, Mr. Sharp can't be the witness in this particular instance.
I'm going by what the transcript says.
I'm saying though that he can't speak to why Mr. Zachary said, yeah, it has some shootings on it.
I'm going to exclude that. I mean, honestly, it looks to me like he's saying, yeah, I mean, now that I know, I'm not surprised. But, I mean, if that's what you wanted in for, make that argument. But I didn't hear that argument. So that would be lines... So you're saying, hang on, Mr. Sharp, on 68, where are you proposing that redaction start?
19 to 24.
19 to 24, okay. I am going to exclude that. All right, now moving to 69, lines 2 through 6.
And it's starting on January 26th. Halfway through 2.
Okay.
Through 5, really.
Was that page 69, line 2?
Yes.
Yeah, lines 2 through 6, starting with on January 26th. I mean, they're basically again saying, hey, you had this gun at some point, and we know that it was involved in this shooting. We'd like to know who gave you the gun. And they don't have an issue with we'd like to know who gave you the gun. Just we found out later this came back to the shooting.
That's fine.
Okay, so that is 2 through 6, starting on January 26th, are out by agreement. Okay. And then 17 we already did. So the next one is actually 18, page 69, line 25 through 7213. And
okay, so Judge, when Detective Dennis asks who shot up Lucci's mama's house on page 69 at line 25, and Mr. Zachary gives them an answer. I would argue that all of this is information that I should be able to ask him about. And if he doesn't, if he testifies inconsistently, it should be able to come in. I'm not looking at his reason for asking it to come out, so I look at
yeah, what's your
there's no indication
how he knows
to the extent that my client was there, as he claims. There's no indication that he was there, and there's no indication of what his source of knowledge is. I think he's just passing along rumors. And so if he says I was there when Lucci's mom's house was shot up and it was Shannon Stillwell that did it, then I don't really have a leg to stand on, but I don't believe he's going to say that. And he needs firsthand knowledge or another exception or another hearsay exception. And I don't see it in the state just kind of saying, oh, well, he knows, so therefore it's admissible. There's just so much rumor and back and forth in this case. And I think that the investigators, I'm not trying to criticize them, but they're just trying to like gather information, not in preparation of trying the case, but just trying to get like some broad generalized what the word on the street is.
So, Your Honor, as with any evidence or testimony that we elicit or tender, we have to establish a foundation before it's admitted. So we would not be seeking, and this we don't believe is just rank hearsay. So we just have a different position, and we would ask that the court just allows the opportunity to lay the foundation and present it.
All right, and I assume that your foundation is going to be co-conspirator exception, that they all know this because they're in the gang and they communicate and they need to be able to know that argument. I mean, I would think so. And frankly, even on 73, when they asked about what about Thug's stepdad's house, he actually says, I don't know for sure who did that one. So, I mean, he's clearly, if he doesn't know, he's like, beats me on that one.
Well, I think, I don't speak for Mr. Zachary, but I could see a world where he's a layman. And so he's saying, well, I haven't heard, I don't know for sure means I haven't heard anyone, no one's told me about that. And I just think, I don't think the co-conspirator, and I'm not saying that Your Honor said this, but I don't believe that the co-conspirator exception is satisfied by just saying, oh, well, it was a bunch of co-conspirators talking. I think that they need to establish who said what to whom and where in the circumstances of that statement, so we can see if it falls under 801 D2E. And so that's, I'm in the blind right now as far as how the state plans to get into that. But what I don't want to happen is the state, when Mr. Zachary's on the stand, to try to bring up, well, who do you know who shot Lucci's mother's house? And he says, I don't know, I wasn't there. And then they say, well, didn't you tell the investigators that Woody and Shannon and Pokey did it? And it's like, it was just based on nothing, but it's already out there now.
And Judge, that would be a leap. That would be a to say who did it and then didn't you tell them. I would at the very least establish a basis for his knowledge, either from things that he has said previously or from things that he says on the stand. So it wouldn't be as if it would be some kind of backdoor way to get in somebody's name that, you know, is sitting here in the courtroom. It would be the proper pulling out of evidence of the witness on the stand. It would be establishing a foundation for his knowledge.
Okay, but we're assuming if this comes in, that it's coming in because it's coming in as an inconsistent statement, you're impeaching him, right? I mean, obviously, if he gets up and you ask him about it and he testifies to all of it on the stand, then there still might be a foundational objection, but then we deal with that then. But if you're getting it in because you're having to impeach him, that's what we're trying to decide now. And so I don't want to wait and have the jury there and make the jury go away while we figure out the basis of his knowledge.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So I don't know if
We'll swing back around to that one.
We'll swing back around to that one. Okay. Let's see. I mean, and frankly, it's probably going to be the same. You're going to need the same information for a foundation, regardless of its as to his testimony on the stand or as to this, you know. But yeah, it kind of let us know what that's going to be. so that I can make a determination of whether it comes in, potentially.
Which number are we on?
Well, that was 18. You agree about 19, so we're moving to 20. And y'all just let me know when lunch gets here and we'll break. Oh, it is here? Okay. We're going to break then. All right. Great. So it's 12:15 right now. So far, Ms. Rosser has not been able to reach Mr. Melnick. It's probably more likely that it'll be tomorrow than today. So why don't we, I don't know, maybe I'll know more after lunch, but let's break until 1:30. Is that enough time, deputies, for getting everybody fed? Okay. See y'all back at 1:30.